What it do, everybody? This is your man, DJ Dorsey. I'm going to try to tell you about my experience from going from black church to white church. Now, let me say up front, what this is not going to be about is black church versus white church. I'm not categorizing every black church and every white church. I'm simply telling you about my experience from going from a black church to a white church. Um, well, in short, I grew up. Well, let me say this too. I posted a status on Facebook saying I was going to talk about this. And I also said I was going to talk about how slavery, how I think that has something to do with, black how it negatively affects black Christians today. And you know, I started getting posts on my Facebook like, "Yo, here we go. White churches got problems just like black churches." Da 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 da. I guess people thought I was going to say white church was better or black church was better. That's not my attempt here. It's not my attempt. My attempt is to tell you about my experience. I don't know why I'm talking with my hands either. You probably can't even see them because they're out the picture. But anywho, I'm gonna just tell you about my experience, my personal experience from going from black church to white church. Um, and what's ironic is actually, many of you know Kev on Stage, the Playmakers. What's funny is he made a video earlier this week, and it's almost verbatim of my story, somewhat. But I still was, at first I was like, I ain't gonna even do it because he just told my story, but I'm gonna still tell you my story from my experience. Now, I grew up in a Pentecostal church, apostolic church, and one of those very strict, women can't wear pants, makeup, you're not allowed to go skating, movies, bowling, none of that. Um, and I grew up in that type of environment for about, uh, from the age of like 4 or 5 up until I was like 17. Then I ended up going to a non-denominational church and, end up loving it there. And, after a while, I went there for like 12 years. And after a while, I was just like, yo, it's time for me to have a change. It was just time for me to have a change. Here's the reason why I wanted to change. Mind you, I've been going to black church all my life. And there were certain things about me that I needed, that I felt that I couldn't really find any black churches that offered me what I felt like I needed spiritually, um, and resourcefully too. To be completely honest, um, having children, being married, I wanted a family church. I wanted to see a pastor having a good marriage. And I'm not saying there is no black churches that don't have that. I'm not saying that because I know pastors who have wonderful relationships with their wives. But what I am saying is I wanted to see a good nursery for my children to be able to go to, and I couldn't really find that. And another thing was, just I'm an entrepreneur. A lot of you know that. I like business. I love business. I love the culture of business. I love making deals. I love negotiations. And I wanted to find somewhere where there was an environment of other entrepreneurs, other people that own businesses, to where people that can relate, and then too people that I can learn from. And a lot of times I couldn't really find too many other black business owners in black churches. It's like, to be quite honest, a lot of the black business owners that I know of, they go to white churches. I think I know some of the reasoning, and I actually asked some, and the answers were just find some and ask them. Let me put it that way. And I'm not saying that there's no black business owners that go to black churches. I'm not saying that because I do know. But like I said, I didn't really see an environment for those black business owners to even talk about it. A lot of times what I've experienced in black church was a lot of the focus was put on the preacher. A lot of the focus was put on the preacher, and a lot of focus was put on the praise and worship leader and stuff like that. Now, my experience, now that I go to a white church, the preacher is kind of like the last person that wants the attention. I've seen a lot of white churches put emphasis, and the ones that I go to, on putting it in small groups. Get involved, fellowship. Whether you want to go to a small group about marriage or finances, or if you're a single parent now because you got divorced or somebody passed, your spouse passed away. Like I'm seeing that being pushed, versus like I could. I'm gonna be honest. In a lot of black churches, it was like everybody was trying to be the next preacher, and I got tired of that. I got tired of the hype. I got tired of the hooping and hollering. And I'm not saying anything is wrong with it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I got tired of it personally. I wanted to go somewhere where I can get some good solid teaching, and then also be in a community of people that I can find. Like me and my wife, when we first started going, we ended up getting involved in a marriage small group. It was no marriage. Well, it was marriage. It was small group for marriages. And it was funny because it wasn't just any particular person talking. It was a group of us, like 20 couples sitting in a room. There was a leader over the group, but it was like everybody was sharing their experience. And I was just like, yo, this is so different. I'm used to somebody standing above me, talking to us, preaching. And I didn't get that. So that's something else that I thought was pretty cool. Um, music, yeah, what's funny is, I come from a musical background, and what's funny is in most black churches, the main instrument is what? The organ. In most white churches, what's the main instrument? Guitar. And I thought that was kind of funny, but culturally, we're different that way. I do miss the organ. I do miss that in a lot of services, but in white churches, you're not going to get that. Praise and worship is still something I'm trying to get used to. In black churches, a lot of stuff is loopy. We worship you, we worship you, we praise you. In white churches, they talk about nature, and I still can't get over it. Just culturally, we're different. Praise and worship is something that I do miss in the black church. But it is what it is. Um, the, you know, to keep it kind of short, what I said is something about slavery, how I think it negatively affects the black Christian. Um, there were some. Let me tell you this. I did some research on slavery and slavery in the church. Now, back in the day, there was a lot of people that actually went to that were slaves that picked cotton all week. When they end up going to church, it was a time for them to get refreshed, re-energized, and get hyped. Get spiritually encouraged. And a lot of times, the preacher was doing hooping and hollering, hooping, and I think that's where hooping came from, was from the slavery days. And, in my mind, I'm not saying anything is wrong with hooping. I am saying I got tired of it because to me it's like hooping is a way to evangelize. I got to a place where I was like, I want to be taught. I've been saved for years now, and I still feel like I'm being evangelized. So now I'm at a place where I just really want to learn and be taught. So in a lot of white churches, and then too because black people we're very emotional, we're very soulish, and a lot of times that's how we just express ourselves is through hooping. But I got to a place where I'm like, okay, I want something else. I want to hear some solid teaching. And here's something that I will say. Like, I see financial classes offered in white churches a lot and people attend. Now, the problem that I do see in black churches is black churches do offer finance classes. A lot of times they fade away because the people don't come. The people simply just don't come. But in white churches, I'm seeing attendance. I actually just went to an event earlier this week, and there was a mass amount of people there. But because of the person that they brought in, because of the resources that they probably had to be able to bring this person in. But, you know, to be quite honest, and I don't want you to consider me to be racist against my own people, but I think as a young entrepreneur, I need to surround myself around the culture of people that entrepreneurship is encouraged versus, and I need to be surrounded by a culture where, you know, just for me and my family and my spiritual saneness, I need to be surrounded by something different than what I was used to all my life. Um, And I'll end by saying this. I know another Christian brother that happens to be black, and he ended up starting going to a white church. And I asked him, I said, "Hey man," I said, "what do you see the main? What is the biggest thing that you notice between a black church and a white church?" He said one word. He said resources, and I was just like, "Wow." So, in short, this was just my personal experience. In short, I could say so much more, but I only got a little bit of time to say it, but this is my experience between black church and white church. Now, like I said, I'm not saying which one is right. I'm not saying which one is wrong. I'm simply saying this is my personal experience. If you did that, if you made the switch from a black church to a white church, I would love, 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 love to hear your take, your experience. Peace.